sure how to get the lights up there.
Adrian, we need your 11th point. What is it?
We're working on the lights up there.
Okay.
You won't have to look through the dark. I think we're ready to go. Great.
So what we're hoping to accomplish with this panel is to both give those of you, most of you are serving on one of these working groups, and so we want to give you an opportunity to sort of get an inside look at what the others are doing. We're going to ask each leader here to give a brief description of what they've been doing, who's been coming to their meetings, how they feel about the representation they're getting, et cetera. But then have a conversation focused on what they're talking about so far and how it relates to these transit priority areas. Both the selection of the ones we focus on in this project, but more importantly, how what they're talking about relates to achieving success in these areas. What does success look like from the perspective of the issue set that they're working on? There'll be plenty of opportunity for you to ask questions as well. So let me start with Bill, and each of you just give us a few minutes of what you've been up to and why you've been up to it.
Okay. Hi, everybody. We had a really great turnout at SACOG on April 13th of people that were very interested in economic development issues around transit priority areas. And we know that that's among one of the filters that we'll be looking at. And we gave the very sobering economic forecast, which put everybody in a very happy mood, but wanted to sort of set the stage for the challenge that our region has, but also the opportunity that these transit priority areas can actually be economic development engines, that if we turn it around and sort of think about these as places where there's going to be more intensive investment, infrastructure, and the ability to sort of create these ecosystems where job creation and new wealth can be created, then they can help the surrounding communities. They can help with education and health and a host of other issues, in addition to cleaning up the environment a bit. So among the things that we talked about were things that we just saw in the ULI presentation. We talked a lot about infrastructure. We talked about the need that we identify existing infrastructure that it be shovel ready. I'm looking at the notes here. That we make sure that we not only integrate the large corporate interests, but also small businesses, because we know that small businesses in our region, I saw a startling fact. Small businesses, that is businesses of employers of 50 or less, represent 95% of the job providers here in the greater Sacramento area. It's immense, and so we really need to focus not only on those corporate giants, the Intels and the Aerojets and the Vision Service Plans and others on different corridors, but we really have to care for small businesses as well. We talked a lot about funding, because access to capital is a huge issue. We talked about safety and regulations, workforce development issues, the importance of land and the land type and what would be proximate. There was a whole conversation that was really interesting about making sure that the investments that would happen in these transit priority areas wouldn't be sort of an island or stranded assets, that it would be linked in and supported by the surrounding community. And how would we go about measuring that? So we had a great conversation, and I think it's sort of part one of what will be a multi-part conversation. Well, we'll take these, we'll look at factors such as we just saw, We have a number of activities that are planned for May. Among them is a meeting that's planned with our region's economic developers that's set for mid-May, that the Sacramento Area Commerce and Trade Organization has a naturally occurring group, and we'll be working with them. A regional chambers meeting that's championed by the Sacramento Metro Chamber that involves the Rancho Cordova Chamber, the Folsom Chamber, and a host of other chambers, as again another forum to not only reach out to the nonprofit community but also the business community. And then the Lambda Alpha Land Economics Group, which is a group that is committed to economic development and urban land institute issues, will also be consulting with them. So we want to bring the best of business expertise to the table and begin the process of sort of arriving at a filter, knowing that we want to rely on expertise and knowing that we're going to build something that's going to be sort of fit the greater Sacramento area. So that's kind of where we're at.
Okay, let me mix it up here already. Before we go to Chris,
Yeah.
do you, in terms of the representation and the participation that you've gotten so far, and the reason I'm asking it is part of what we hope to get from the whole consortium is just further and further outreach and networking and bringing more and more people into this process. Do you feel like you're Julia had the slide on the 3 different types of entities that need to participate for good economic development. Do you think you've got those covered? Do you have any weaknesses that you want to talk about and hope that these folks can help us deal with that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's probably 2 messages to send. One is that we've been really impressed with the people that have turned out, the people that want to be part of this conversation. So on the one hand, there's a lot of optimism. But I also have to be very blunt that we haven't received the sort of participation that we want and that we need.
Okay.
In a couple of respects. One is, as probably everybody knows, the economy is kind of underperforming right now. So getting the attention of the corporate community or business organizations right now, exceedingly challenging. They have a number of irons in the fire, and so getting their attention around a planning process that is important, but over a longer term has been difficult.
Okay.
So essentially our strategy has shifted from come to us to we'll come to you and we'll look for every opportunity possible. The other sort of observation I would make, so this is an open call. We need everyone's help to sort of bring people to the table. Large corporations, small businesses, economic development experts from cities and counties, all are welcome and we need more. The other thing that I think, knowing SACOG's interest, our own organization's interest in the overall design of this is we also can't think about economic development in isolation as only being the venue of economic developers. We really have to think about how do we fold in the social equity issues and the natural resource issues. So our thoughts are already running to we want to make sure that we have a really solid economic development plan, but what are the linkages into these other areas? And frankly, that's tough. We haven't figured that out yet. But
Chris has, though, so
Chris
that's a
has,
perfect
right.
segue.
Yeah, we got all the solutions, right? So the Equity, Housing, and Health Working Group has had 2 meetings. The first one was a little over a month ago, or maybe it was about a month ago. Tremendous representation. We had over 40 people who were there. Representing a real diversity of perspectives and interests, everything from early childhood services to aging services, people doing neighborhood associations, health concerns, broad regional equity concerns. At that meeting, and the focus of sort of both of our meetings has really been towards refining the vulnerability index and the opportunity index that we had proposed as sort of our headline measures for trying to to analyze both the conditions in the neighborhood that might lead to high levels of social and economic vulnerability of people living there, and then on the other side, really looking at those indicators of real positive opportunities in those neighborhoods. The first meeting was really a brainstorming meeting. We asked people to look at the initial draft that we had put together and give us feedback on a pretty broad scale. Are there broad categories that we were missing, specific things that we should be thinking about and investigating? We